Well, it seems New South Wales is handling the COVID-19 crisis as well as any other state or territory. However, it's far from out of the woods just yet. Joining me earlier tonight to discuss that particular topic and others, New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro.
Yeah, look, thank you. And, there is no playbook or rule book. We all accept that. We've made decisions with best advice, expert advice from health authorities, also advice from Treasury, trying to find that balance between keeping the economy going, not locking down borders, and also managing the risk. And, credit to the Premier, the Gladys hasn't stopped since bushfires over summer and now the crisis. And under extreme pressure, we're making decisions now. Do we always get them right? No. And we will get some level of criticism because people will always say we should do more or we should do less. So we can never keep everyone happy. So if we make those decisions based on the advice, and if you look at today, the numbers were really good. In a way, with 12 cases, 5 out of quarantine, 7 out of community transmission, and we can identify all of them. It really means all the systems and processes are in place. It means no panic. But we are on a knife edge because as the largest state that borders Victoria, and those numbers in Victoria are concerning. It is a porous border. As much as we want to say it's locked down, it is a porous border, and that risk profile continues. So we'll just continue to make the best decisions. The economy is important, jobs are important, keeping businesses open is important, but at the same time, keeping our communities safe is our priority.
John, what's the situation with masks? Are they likely to be mandatory? Has there been a decision made on that yet?
No, look, there's no decision being made on that. And, we get health advice and expert advice, and you sort of weigh that up. And, masks will always help. There is no question about masks helping in relation to managing the risk. But density is actually a bigger issue. So what you try to do is find a balance. So, some of the expert advice is that, it'll be marginal in what masks can do. We strongly recommend people to do it, especially those most vulnerable in our community that are high-risk categories for catching COVID and being the impacts of COVID. But, we'll just wait and monitor to see exactly where we're at. We are using the best data. Our tracing is world-class before we make any decision, but we are always open to advice. We're always considering every single option, from masks to looking at those risk areas in the economy, those risk areas in clusters or in community. We'll weigh all of it up, but we're not going to have knee-jerk reaction on a daily basis because, say, the opposition calls on us or others in the community. We'll do it with the best advice, and so far we've been able to manage, but we could make an announcement tomorrow or the next day in relation to what next stages we are, if we are concerned. But we are on a knife edge. Next couple of weeks are really going to be a telling point in this cycle.
What about the ACT Queanbeyan border? What impact is it having down there?
Yeah, so the ACT Queanbeyan border is okay because there is no lockdown of that border. So therefore, for many in the Queanbeyan region where that border is seamless, and that's where I call home, and we work very hard with the seamless border. But the issue of those ACT residents being caught on the Albury-Wodonga, the Victoria-New South Wales border, and having to return back to Canberra. I know early in the week that was a big issue. I kept saying that we're working through a process to get those residents back into the ACT. We want to do the right thing, but at the same time, we've got to protect those communities on that 4-hour drive from the border to the ACT. When someone pulls up at a Servo, a McDonald's, or a grocery store, that we don't end up accidentally infecting regional rural communities that have no health infrastructure in place to really manage with the crisis. So yesterday that was announced, and we're now going through those, getting people back into the ACT. But, the ACT, we're working well with them, and it'd be detrimental to that community if we actually had to lock down ever the ACT New South Wales border.
A couple of other issues, John. This nonsense from unions trying to revoke the backpacker visa, that will have a very strong impact on farmers and their ability to pick fruit. What are your thoughts?
This is, again, one of those simple approaches from the unions when they come out and almost say Australians first sort of policy. But, if you talk to farmers, I travel the regions all the time. A lot of Australians that reside here don't choose to be pickers, don't want to work in that sector. And even with COVID crisis, we're seeing more people putting their hand up, but there's always going to be a gap. And we shouldn't just have some knee-jerk reaction from the unions in relation to what we do with those visas. That's just it is a policy position of those unions forever and a day. They're using the crisis of COVID to somehow get one of those policy positions up, and I don't agree with it. Let's find the balance. Of course, we're seeing unemployment rise, we're seeing jobs lost, and any Australian wants to get out in the regions and pick fruit or help support our agriculture business, who businesses and industry who have been on their knees from drought, who are now starting to recover. Those opportunities are there, and no farmer is going to knock back any Australian that's keen to get out there and start supporting them. So let's not try and rewrite policy in the middle of a crisis. We need all hands on deck as we revive the agriculture sector.
The brumby cull, it's created a fair bit of controversy. Do you have an opinion on that? 4,000 brumbies set to be culled.
Yeah, look, where the argument is a sticking point, we've always said, about 4 years ago, the National Park said there was anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 brumbies in Kosciusko National Park. They also said that the drought that impacted on the regions was detrimental to those brumbies, and they thought it was cruel that we didn't just go in there and shoot brumbies that were starving. So there's acknowledgement that a lot of those brumbies perished due to the drought. And then you add in the bushfires up at Kosciusko, and where we've already said 1 billion of our wildlife was lost during the fires, and somehow we won't acknowledge that those fires have also destroyed brumbies. And, I put up on my Facebook page and social media channels photos which I will have to warn your viewers are distressing, because they are carcasses of burnt brumbies, and somehow there's this neglect from national parks and the Minister for Environment to accept that they have been destroyed in the park. And if you want to quantify the impact those brumbies are having in environmental areas, in wilderness areas, which I'm supporting a balanced approach, well then you should do a recount of those numbers so you know what you're starting with. You then can quantify the impact and damage, and then you can identify how many horses should be removed or destroyed before you actually start the process. It's a very simple question, a simple ask, and for the Minister for the Environment, in Matt Kean, or his agency and his bureaucrats, especially national parks, resisting, it tells me what I've always known, that the numbers that they put up last year, that there was somehow 19,000 brumbies in Kosciusko, was also always a lie, an absolute lie, a hidden green agenda to see the destruction and the decimation of that brumby population, which has been in the bush for 200 plus years, a real connection to the Australian store in the Alpine region. This is green ideology hidden within the bureaucracy, hiding behind what they are scared to do is get the facts and science, which they normally use against us. In this case, they don't want the facts to back our argument.
Deputy Premier, I know you've been incredibly passionate when it comes to the NRL and the COVID bubble. Here in Queensland, we've got a situation where the Broncos, 10 of their players, have breached the COVID bubble by attending a hotel. That's under investigation by the NRL. We expect a decision on that in the next 24 hours. Do you believe that these particular players should be sanctioned, and in fact should the club face a massive fine?
Look, let's make this clear. The NRL, the ARL, the chairman in Peter Gleeson, put forward to the state government and gave commitments to the Queensland government in relation to its protocols and measures in dealing with having a competition in this country that allows the NRL to play, where all players are receiving something like 80% of their salaries at the highest rate right across any code globally, let alone just in this country. So to do that, they've had to put measures in place. Those measures are designed to protect players, their families, spectators, fans and the industry. And this is an important industry. If they can get through this season without shutting down the season again, they survive as a code and they can grow into 2021. So when players or clubs breach the protocol set by the NRL, they are jeopardising not their own careers, they're jeopardising the careers of all their colleagues and fellow sports people within the industry. That's what they're jeopardising. It is selfish, and that is why the penalties must apply. I give credit to Peter Gleeson, I give credit to the CEO of the NRL, I give credit to the NRL that they have been tough on all those breaches, because they know the trust they have with the government, the promises they made are important and they will follow. So therefore, I have all confidence that the NRL will make the right decisions in dealing with these clubs and these players or staff that have breached the protocols. And that's what we want to hear, and I'm confident in the NRL, because to this point they've done exactly that, so I have every confidence they'll react accordingly.
New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro, thanks for joining us on Sky News Across Australia.
My pleasure, thank you.